You are in the Eastern Caribbean and around the world. Welcome. This is ECCB Digital Dialogues, a special public engagement series designed for you as we navigate this pandemic together. Since June, when we started this series, we've covered several topics, and in fact, today is our 10th edition of ECCB Digital Dialogues. Over the last few months, we've covered digital currency, tourism, connectivity, food security, and faith. Today, our feature will be pandemic and digital transformation. As our region crafts a regional response to this pandemic, only 2 weeks ago, the Monetary Council, the highest decision-making body of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, approved a program of action for recovery, resilience, and transformation as part of our response to dealing with this pandemic. And one of the pillars of that program of action,
Governor? We
which
can't
is to
hear
be
you.
implemented over the next 3 years, is payments modernization and digital transformation.
Governor,
I'm sure
if
you
you're
can
speaking
all
to
agree
us,
with me
I cannot hear you. This is
that-
Tessin.
I'm sure you can all agree with me that connectivity and digital tools have been a lifeline in this pandemic. If you think about it, we've used these tools for work, for school, for worship, for shopping, and so many other events and activities in daily life. And I suppose the question could be asked, where would we have been without connectivity and those digital tools? But even as we celebrate the use of these tools as a bulwark of resilience in this period, I think we also readily must acknowledge that this pandemic has in fact laid bare the digital divide. Those who are connected and those who are not. And perhaps we've seen it most obviously, most glaringly in education. So what are the challenges with digital transformation? What are the opportunities? How do we as a region use this moment to take our development to the next level and continue to build resilience and ultimately to transform our region? Well, these are some of the questions we hope to cover in the next hour and a half. We have a wonderful panel lined up to assist us with that. But before I introduce our panel, I'd like to offer you a few housekeeping announcements. First, this dialogue is being streamed live on our Facebook page, ECCB Connects. For participants who are in our Zoom room, we would ask that you keep your microphones muted and that your questions be deposited in the Q&A box. Note, not the chat box, the Q&A box. That's where we'd like to have your questions. This event will be recorded and will be available for you on our Facebook page, and we'll also upload it on our YouTube channel, ECCB Connects. I'm very pleased today to recognize our media partners who are joining us for this episode of ECCB Digital Dialogues. In Anguilla, we have Class FM. And Class will broadcast this tonight at 8 p.m. Commonwealth of Dominica, Carry FM, tonight at 8 p.m. And in St. Christopher and Nevis, we will have Vaughan Radio tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and ZIZ Television tonight at 8 p.m. So those of you who want to catch it on your television or radio stations, you can do that there. I'd also like to recognize that we have some live partners who are carrying it live at this moment. In Montserrat, we have ZJB Radio Montserrat. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have Freedom FM 106.5 and Win FM 98.9. In St. Lucia, we have WVen 93.5 FM, 94.7 FM, and Rhythm FM. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have Praise FM, Nice Radio, and We FM Radio. And there will also be rebroadcasts in Anguilla on Radio Anguilla and Class FM, in Antigua and Barbuda on ABS Radio and Nice FM Radio, in the Commonwealth of Dominica, DBS Radio and Q95 FM, and in Grenada, Classic FM 105.5. In fact, they're carrying it live. Sister Eyes Radio 92.9. So wherever you are in the ECCU, from Anguilla in the north to Grenada in the south, and everybody in between, welcome to ECCB Digital Dialogues. We're happy to have you join us today. And now to our panel. First, I'd like to recognize and welcome the distinguished Director General of the OECS Commission, Dr. Didicus Jules. Dr. Jules is a household name in our region. He has headed the Secretariat of the Commission for the last, I think, 7 years or so. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And of course, before that, he is well known as an education specialist in our region. He needs no further introduction. Dr. Jules, welcome, and just greet us this morning.
Yep, thank you very much, Governor.
Good. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you on board. And now I'd like to invite Tassine Sayed. Tassine, as I will call her for short, is the Director for the Caribbean, except for Haiti, at the World Bank. Tassine is a very committed fighter for our region at the World Bank. We're really pleased to have her as a partner before the pandemic and now in the pandemic. And we're grateful that she has consented to join us today. And we'll hear more about what the World Bank is doing to support us in the area of digital transformation. Tassine, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Governor, and thank you. It's a pleasure to join this great panel and to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know it's a little earlier where you are, so thanks for making that special effort as well. Appreciate that. And then our third and final panelist is in fact Mr. Andrew Millett, Managing Director of ECTEL, the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority. Mr. Millett is a telecoms professional for almost 30 years. He joined the ECTEL, the authority, in 2014 and has been its Managing Director since 2017. Mr. Millett, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Governor. Thanks very much for this invitation and to be part of this good, distinguished panelists.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we're really looking forward to this conversation. So for those of you who are new, or those of you, just a quick refresher, we do these dialogues in 3 segments. In the first segment, I will pose some questions to the panel and invite their comments. Second segment will be a poll where we actually give you some questions and we ask you to respond. Today, I think we have 3 questions lined up for you. And then the third and final segment, which is typically the longest, is our Q&A segment, where we will actually take your questions in the Q&A box. We also have a colleague who's monitoring Facebook and will send those questions through, and we try to take as many as we can in the time that we have. So with that, I want to, again, welcome all of you, and let us start the dialogue. Let us get into the first segment. So the pandemic has affected every facet of our lives, and there's no question about that. And I've already alluded to the importance of digital tools and connectivity in this period. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Jules this question. Dr. Jules, what is your vision for digital transformation in our region, and why is this transformation critical to the advancement of our economies and societies?
Yes, thank you, Governor. The OECS has always had the ambition of moving to to engage in digital transformation as an important lever to make us more competitive in the global economy, and also to transform the provision of government services to our people and to accelerate the harmonization of literally everything across the OECS footprint. We have been speaking about this in the Caribbean in general for the last 20 years or so, and the progress has been slow at times. It's been, one step forward, two steps backward. There have been objective constraints such as the availability and the ubiquity of bandwidth across our footprints. And of course, the engagement of the key players have really been a critical impediment in this. Nevertheless, with COVID now, what we have had to jump quickly on that digitization, that digital transformation bandwagon as quickly as possible. And in fact, what we failed to do in 20 years, we have actually done in 2 months. And the World Bank has been a great player in this. I'm happy to see that Mr. Millet of ECTEL is on board, because ECTEL is critical to the further liberalization of bandwidth. I often say that bandwidth is oxygen, and that is the backbone on which we are going to do this transformation. The ECCB has played a critical role, and I want to pause here quickly to acknowledge something that I think is a very big secret in our region. Everyone or most people know that you've launched the digital EC dollar, but what is not known is that the ECCB is the first central bank in the world to launch this. And at the time you engage in this process, Governor, it was something that other central banks worldwide were shying away from. So the courage and the determination speaks for itself. And I hope it is that ambition that can drive us now to move ahead with that level of alacrity and progress to position the OECS as an example of an integration movement which has been accelerated through the use of digital transformation approaches and methodologies and technologies to take us where we need to go.
Thank you, Dr. Jules. So we are about to launch. We haven't formally launched, and the reason why we delayed is because of the pandemic. But I thank you for your kind words. The truth is that today, digital currency is now in the mainstream, and many central banks are talking about it, are actually planning to do it. When we started this journey 2 years ago, some people were looking at it with skepticism. Today, and I don't want to take any credit for that. We can't. I think while we did what we have to do, I think Libra is what really focused the minds and got many of the major central banks to really begin to take digital currency more seriously. And I'll just say this before we move on. One of the reasons why we have pressed on this idea of digital currency and the D-Cash is because we believe that as part of digitizing our economies and our societies, the currency is an important mover or lever in that regard. And so there's been a very strategic thinking around why we should pursue it, in addition to the key pain points, such as the costs of payments, the speed of payments, financial exclusion, and some of the other key issues that we need to address in our region. You got me excited about this, but we'll have more to say perhaps later. So let me ask Andrew. Thank you, Dr. Jules. So let me ask Mr. Millet, Andrew, as I may refer to him sometimes, we go back way back, but I'd like to now pose this question to him. What role has the telecommunications industry played in supporting the surge in demand for connectivity in the COVID-19 environment? And what are some of the infrastructural challenges inhibiting our region's ability to adapt even more quickly and fully to this pandemic? Mr. Millet.
Thanks, Governor, for this question. Firstly, let me just say electronic communication networks continue to be a critical enabler of connectivity for businesses, government, and societies to keep connected. So at the onset of this pandemic, what we saw, people were asked to work from home. So there was a shift in the demand for bandwidth. It moved from businesses to residential homes. Yes. So what we saw, people working from home using collaborative tools such as Zoom, Slack, and those things like that. For entertainment, to use at Netflix. So the demand for bandwidth from homes started to increase. So what did some providers do? One, the international capacity, they had to dramatically increase the international capacity and also domestic capacity. What we saw, just to let you know, the increase in bandwidth was over 40% increase just in a short space of time. So that was very critical for the service providers to act on very quickly. Some did it better than others, but this is I'll address that in a later time. In terms of some providers also installed additional broadband nodes Government asked for zero rating of sites, so that was done, so that people without credit were able to get to government sites. Some providers actually offered online study platforms, and also the suspended disconnection of services, which was great during that time. In terms, apart from the service providers, Governor, the regulatory system also took part in that. We used this universal service funds to help in terms of improving and increasing the number of Wi-Fi hotspots, providing funds for access devices, and even providing affordable internet services. So all in all, in terms of the service providers, there was some work done to look at the increase, but we'll talk about later. The quality of service still remains a big issue. With respect to infrastructure challenges, I will say there are 5 major infrastructure challenges. The first one is really international capacity. And the Director General did mention to that. We need to significantly increase our international capacity using either submarine fibers or even satellites. I've been looking at some tests that's going on by SpaceX in the US, where from small satellite dishes, they're getting over 150 megs at homes right now. So this is something that we will have to look for in the future. Secondly, apart from the international capacity, we have to look at the geographic areas that are underserved in some of these areas, in some of the islands. We saw a case in Dominica just recently. This may be as a result of hurricanes, but it's something that we need to tackle. All areas must be served by a good telecommunications infrastructure. Also, we have to look at, thirdly, at the network infrastructure. We have to move away from a lot of the copper, the legacy networks, and move to greater use of fiber optics, not just to the curb, but directly to the home. So we need that sort of development within the islands to increase the quality of service. The quality of service is something that really has to be improved very, very soon. And apart from all of those infrastructure things, Governor, 2 critical things we have to talk about is affordability of service and the affordability of devices. To achieve universal access, we need affordable services and devices to ensure that we have the whole population properly connected.
Right. So thank you very much, Andrew, for that, because I mean, this is a very important issue. We need to have every individual, business, or government must have access to high-speed broadband connectivity, and high-speed and reliable, and it must be affordable. And what you've pointed out there about cost and reliability are important issues. As I understand it, about 40% of our people do not have access to broadband connectivity. Some studies say 50%. And we do know that even for those who are connected, the cost is high. In fact, in our region, we have some of the highest costs for broadband in the Western Hemisphere. So we do have to look at these issues and address them frontally in this period. So there are challenges. But I do want to add my voice in commending the providers who responded very swiftly at the outset of the pandemic to make available that extra capacity to allow us to work from home, school from home, church from home, among other things. So there are issues, yes, but I also recognize special effort was made. Having said that, you've already pointed out we have to improve reliability. I think some of us feel if we're going to pay for a service, we must get the quality that we pay for. So if we're paying for certain speeds, then we must ensure that those speeds are delivered. And I suppose this is partly a regulatory issue as well. So you've opened up some issues which I'm sure will come back up as we continue this conversation, but which touch and concern the experience of people in daily life. As we speak, I mean, since late March, the ECCB, as an example, has been in teleworking mode. Most of our colleagues, myself included, have been working from home. So we've seen the joys and travails of that mode in respect of connectivity. Sometimes it's great, sometimes the connectivity is not so great. And we've had instances where we have to rush people into the campus to meet operational deadlines. Overall, it's worked well, I will say that. But we do see the quality variations at critical times, and that's obviously a concern. And I think many people may be sharing that at home. So thanks for raising those very pertinent issues. Now let me let me turn to the World Bank. And Mr. Head Tasteen, I'd like to pose this question to you. In June of this year, the World Bank's board approved the Caribbean Digital Transformation Program. What more could you tell us about this very important project, and why did the World Bank get involved?
Thank you very much, Governor. It's a pleasure indeed to be here in this panel. Let me first say why the World Bank is involved. The World Bank, first of all, we are really humbled and very proud to be your partner and the partner of all the distinguished panelists present over here on this particular project. We are involved because it is a necessity and it was a felt need by all our partners, yourselves, as well as the countries. Why a necessity? I mean, you have spoken a lot on that, as has Dr. Didicus Jules, that countries globally are transitioning and benefiting from the innovation, the efficiency, the effectiveness, the outreach and connectivity that is there because of digital technology. Whether it's citizens' interactions with public services, such as getting licenses or paying taxes, or conducting financial transactions, as you were mentioning, whether it's licenses or other transactions, e-payments, you need the technology. As you said just now, Governor, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a stark reminder of the benefits of digitization. Every moment that we are living and breathing as we are doing right now, it is because of the benefit of digitization, hence the necessity. And in the past few months, countries around the world, which had stronger digital foundations, have really been able to benefit from it far more than countries that had less stronger digital foundations. As you mentioned, there is a divide also globally on this matter. Second reason why the World Bank is involved is because all of you asked us to be involved. It was a felt need of the Caribbean. In May 2019, conference with regional one only. Everyone in the room agreed that Eastern Caribbean countries and the region must sprint towards a digital economy. And why? Because as you mentioned already, that 40% of the Caribbean small states still lack, are lagging actually on this issue, and they lack affordable internet as well, or internet per se. The region also performs below its peers in terms of digitization of public services. Finally, what is the project? I have to share one thing, and I'm very proud of that actually. This is the first World Bank regional digital project. Globally, the World Bank has done lots of digital projects and financing, but this is the first one at regional level, which is looking at various pillars of a digital economy. This Digital Caribbean project, with a financing close to $100 million, aims to increase access to digital services, technologies, skills, and it's not just for the public sector or the private sector or businesses, it's also for individuals and entrepreneurs in the Eastern Caribbean countries. At the moment, 4 countries are participating in this project: Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent and Grenadines, and St. Lucia. And the project has been actually tailored to meet each country's specific needs. For instance, St. Vincent and the Grenadines wanted to do more on the land-related digitization, so there's going to be more on that front for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Similarly, other countries have their priorities. However, a key aspect is the regional dimension, and I'm so pleased to be here with the 3 key regional players, the ECCB, the OECS Commission, and ECTEL, because the regional dimension is is the key one also that I'll come to later when we have further conversation today. But the main aspects of this project are supporting access to affordable broadband, supporting regulatory and legal infrastructure to promote the use of digital financial services, which Governor, your ECCB team is leading, moving towards public services online and more digitization of social cash transfers, assisting businesses to adopt digital technologies, provision, very importantly, of tablets and laptops for students who are learning more and more online, especially in the COVID context. And finally, skills and technology adoption to equip individuals and firms with the needed digital skills. At the end, I will say this probably sounds like a lot, and it is. And I'm the one who always tells my team and believes in simplicity and move forward with fewer things. But in this case, it is necessary to look at all these dimensions together. We are also doing singular activities in this domain. For example, there's a Caribbean Regional Infrastructure Program, which has been assisting on undersea cables on digital broadband side. So that too is there. But a project such as this one requires this holistic approach, which I just shared.
Thank you very much, Justine, for that overview of this project. And I will simply add, when we convened in last year, none of us knew or could have foreseen this pandemic. Certainly, we were doing it for the right reasons. We needed to move the region forward in the digital economy, but we were not thinking. I think now that we are in the midst of this pandemic, this project assumes even greater importance. And I'm glad that we're in a position where we essentially are now ready to begin implementation. And we have this lined up. So we're not working on it, we're not negotiating it, we're about to get started. And so with that in mind, and I'd just like to say before I continue, many people have been involved on your end and on our end, meaning our regional partners, and you will hear from them in a minute specifically. But I do want to recognize the ECCB team who worked on this project, including Imran Williams, Karen Williams, among others, who really worked very passionately on this project. We feel it strongly, and we're happy to partner with the OECS Commission, ECTEL, Impacts, and I think CTU. So let's continue to break it down. You've set the table very nicely there. Such a project requires partnerships. And we have the key institutions, most of them on this panel at this time. And so what I'd like to do is to ask each of you to just speak to your precise role in this project. So Dr. Jules, I'll start with you, and you can just speak to the OECS commissions, the lead, what you will lead on as part of this, and then I'll ask Mr. Millet to comment. So Dr. Jules, over to you.
Yes, Governor. So the main component that the OECS is responsible for is the piece related to digital skills and the sort of general implementation of the digital transformation in the government space. Let me say that for us, this project has come at the right time. Around the time that COVID hit, so it was the right place to be at the right time. And importantly, what we've done at the Commission, working closely, as you are aware, with your team from ECCB, is to use this digital transformation project as the hook, a point of convergence of all of our other initiatives related to digital transformation in the OECS, and as a mechanism to accelerate the regional integration effort. So to give some quick examples, aside from the components already described by Tassin in relation to the World Bank project, because we're using it as a point of convergence, we've added onto that other projects that we have in progress. So for example, there's a project on strengthening the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem in the OECS that we are doing with an entity like Compete Caribbean. We are also engaged with UNICEF on what is called the Giga project. And the OECS is one of 3 regions in the world where this project is being rolled out. We started off by mapping all schools OECS on a geographic information system. We've mapped the extent of the bandwidth that they have available. And we are now going to move to the next stage of aggregating all of the demand for initially for education, but ultimately for public service bandwidth across the entire footprint of the OECS and going to tender, right, in what we hope with the partnership of ECTEL will be a freshly and so on. And we've also been working on an OECS Learning Hub together with Ministries of Education that would see us really converging, having a point of convergence for online learning. And of course, there are many providers in that space. Just recently with our SDM, one of the winning pitches in the business innovation activity was something called Project Jaguar, that in fact really provides a space for not just for learning for schools, but for all kinds of skills training, public sector, upgrading, professional development in that space. And then we have another project with the World Bank, which is a World Bank health project, which has a significant digitization component. In fact, this afternoon, I'm due to have some meetings with some medical doctors in the private health sector to discuss the digitization of health, because there are huge opportunities there. Imagine when COVID hit, you recall many of our doctors shut their offices because there was such a risk that they could not afford to be open and have a patient walk in who has COVID. Who was able to do their consultations remotely was able to do that. But now with things like the iWatch, it is very possible for your by your doctor. So we entered into a whole new space of digital health provision that in fact will be even more cost effective than what we face now. We have a knowledge exchange, innovation and exchange project with a global partnership for education. And these are just some examples of how we've used the World Bank project as that convergence point to bring all of these together in an ecosystem aimed at the integrated transformation of what we do on the regional integration front, the harmonization of initiatives, bringing islands to work closer together.
Thanks for that. I'd just like to add, I know one of the things that you're covering as well is the area of skills. And only last week, in fact, we met with your team and our team and Dr. Neil to talk about the setting up of the OECS Robotics Association, just to get the young people, they're already excited, but to help them organize themselves to build those skills, to support STEM careers, and to really ensure that we have a cadre of young people who can really benefit from the digital economy. Because one of the things that I think we're concerned about is, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly to your point on that, Governor, tomorrow we have a meeting of the ministers responsible for tertiary education, who are usually our ministers of education, yes, together with the governors, the board of governor chairpersons and the presidents or heads of the tertiary institutions to look exactly at that question, not just the robotics thing, but also how do we now, in this age of remote learning, move all of our community colleges within a converged space to offer that new modality and to focus on the critical skills, because jobs are also being transformed. To offer those critical skills with a whole cohort of learners now who are at work, who are in the workplace as well as in school, who are out of school, for seamless learning across the demographic.
Right, very, very good. I'm pleased to hear about that engagement, because I think, we all feel the weight of joblessness, youth unemployment, very, very significantly in our transformation offers real possibilities for jobs for youth. And this is something we really want to latch on to. and not just consume digital goods, but be producers so that we have real digital trade. So I'm excited about that. And I thank you, Dr. Jules, for your leadership in this area. So let me ask Mr. Millett now to speak to what ECTEL will bring to this particular partnership under this project.
Okay, thanks, Governor. We have three main components under this project. The first really is to modernize the legal, regulatory, and institutional frameworks governing the telecom sector, and also to provide greater support for competition and affordability. Those are two things that we spoke about earlier on, especially affordability. The second component really is to develop monitoring and enforcement policies and to deploy equipment in each of our ECTEL member states. That's Grenada, St. Vincent and Grenadines, St. Lucia, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis, to monitor the quality of fixed and mobile broadband services. And thirdly, is ready to develop action plans to enhance the resilience and emergency response capabilities for critical communication infrastructure across the region. So those are the three main components of the projects that will be involved in this Caribbean project.
Right, thanks for that. And of course, I think we're collaborating with OECS on data protection, which is very, very important. And Impacts will be the lead on cybersecurity. And clearly, we all recognize cybersecurity and cyber resilience are critical as we build out this digital economy. And we also know this is not a single country or national enterprise. So you must have some capacity in country, but we all recognize that we also have to build capacity regionally and to ensure that we have the capacity to allow us to help each other, share information, best practices, support each other, and be a backup in the event, say we have an incident and we need response. So there is I just want to stress the cybersecurity resilience portion, because that is very, very key. From the ECCB perspective, Tassine already mentioned, we will play the lead on digital finance, digital financial services. So for example, we are already working on new framework for modernization of the payment system. That obviously is key. The current Payments Act is 2008. We need to have a new legislation in place, and we expect to have a draft ready early, certainly in the first half of 2021, which we can then ask our governments to enact into law. We are also, of course, leading on the digital currency, Dcash, some other areas in payments. Now, I mentioned this as well for people in the private sector who are looking to play in this area, looking for opportunities. We believe that as we set out these platforms and put this infrastructure in place, the private sector will have opportunities to bring services, to deliver services, to help build out that digital economy. So this is very, very important for them as well. So thanks for that. And so let me now ask the panelists, and what our roles will be. But could you touch a little bit on what you see as the role of governments in this project? Dr. Jules.
Yeah, Governor, before I take your question, if I may, I think your modesty has sort of shortchanged the ECCB part of this, because what you're doing with the digital currency, for most people, listeners out there, it may sound a bit high-tech and esoteric. But I think what is important to note about these initiatives is what it's going to do for financial inclusion. I think the statistics show that about 70,000